On this program, we've spoken quite a bit about the cashless tolling system on the new Mario M. Cuomo Bridge and all the kinks that they're trying to get out. Now, what we haven't spoken about is how invasive those contraptions can be. They include license plate readers, and that enables them to know how fast you're going, where you are, and what your driving habits are. Also, when do you pick up the kids from school? It even knows that. What restaurants do you like? It knows. Well, Journal News data reporter Frank Esposito, he's been digging into this for months, and I just sat down with him.
This is not a slight, this is some scary stuff that you uncovered here in your series. And it starts off, and it was interesting for me, you're talking about Piermont, a sleepy little town. They spend 26 grand, I think it is, for basically a license plate reader. And I say, okay, well, I don't know where you're going. But by the end of this interconnected network of data mining and where it potentially could go in the future, it's like 1984 writ large. Did you have any idea before you started this that not only were the various pieces there, but how for-profit companies are really driving this and where this could be going technologically?
I had somewhat of an idea of how this could be used. Just the prevalence of the government's reliance on it, though, too, is another. That was more surprising than just what private corporations were doing to look people up.
Because I figure, okay, cop's got a license plate reader and you're at a red light and they're trying to see if, okay. But I had no idea, in practical terms, if we're not already there pretty soon from all that, and this all really started with the cashless tolls and all the reporting you guys have been doing as it relates with the new bridge and everything else attended to it. They basically know where you are conceivably at all points, and it's not just in your car. I mean, they're talking about making this so you can do a scanless thing when you go from a bus to a subway and then points in between, and that this data isn't just limited to law enforcement possibly. They could sell it, these private companies, to other people as well.
Yeah, they actually some private companies are already selling this data to companies. TLO specifically is one of them that is selling your plate data, which is where you go, to the doctor, to church, anywhere in between, your mistress's house. They're going to know this, and people can buy it. And it's kind of cheap, too.
And to me, at least, Frank, okay, and we've seen this play out this past week with Facebook and certainly other tech firms that, wait a minute, this isn't just about somebody putting a pop-up to try and, target you because you've been buying a lot of X product and they're trying to maybe show you a good deal here so they can capture you as a consumer. This could go in all sorts of ways. I mean, you touched on a few here. It's not just, hey, wait a minute, how fast are you going on the thruway? Now, all of a sudden, they're building profiles about you. They're tracking your whereabouts and everything else. And it's, instead of an opt-in button, just because I'm getting an easy pass here? I mean, is that really the green light I have to give, that now they've got a profile on my comings and goings?
Well, for now, the Easy Pass data is being kept by the Thruway Authority. They say they only use it to judge travel times between things. So when you're, 45 minutes and 45 miles and 45 minutes.
Okay, but they keep the stuff for 5 years, right?
So technically, the Thruway Authority can keep that stuff indefinitely. Law enforcement can keep it for 5 years.
Okay, why, if they're trying to just find out my rate of speed, why do they need to hold on to it, any law enforcement, for 5 years?
Because to generate an accurate tracking map of somebody, you'd want a large pool of data to pull from. So for 5 years, I can tell where you've been for that time, committing burglaries or doing whatever that they're searching for.
And lest anyone think that I'm just divining here maybe some of the applications of this, I want to read a quote that Frank got in his reporting, and this is from the CEO over at Conduent, which is one of the bigger for-profit companies that are helping with this data accrual here. This is from a Carol Klein. She says, "We know where you are, we know what you're buying, we know what you're doing, we know your habits. It's creating quite a capability." This isn't just about helping cops figure out if somebody's got a stolen car or how fast somebody's going and if there's a pattern here. This clearly has designs to go much broader than this.
Yeah, creating demand profiles for consumers, either in transportation, healthcare, whatever kind of it's doing business in today. is a powerful tool. And being able to market or to tell advertisers, listen, I know exactly who's going to want your product and when they're going to want it and how much they're willing to pay for it at what time.
I know, for me, I said, okay, well, this is being used and it's being kept and it's being, managed strictly by law enforcement. But the idea that, and you mentioned one of these companies in Texas, basically was putting quotas on the cops. That you have to pull over a certain number of people here, basically that there's a monetary stick involved here, that they want to have more people pulled over or used with this technology, otherwise they were going to take it back. How have we injected profit into this?
Well, I can give you an exact number for that. It's 25% upcharge. Vigilant Solutions was providing the license plate readers and actual credit card readers too to certain departments in Texas. And while there was no numerical quota in the Texas contracts, there was this vague mentioning of that there were certain quotas that you had to meet, or otherwise we were going to deploy this in another place. So there was a very...
And why would they care how many people got pulled over?
Well, it wasn't necessarily pulled over, but it's how many warrants they issued, how many fines.
Okay, why do they care how many warrants were written?
So they can make it worth their while.
Exactly. Now, I'm pretty sure the general public isn't going to be crazy that for-profit companies are using law enforcement basically as an appendage to acquire information about people and their travel habits and everywhere else. I got to imagine, I know Senator Carlucci has proposed legislation. Can we put the genie back in the box here? Why do they need to be able to hold our personal information? It's one thing, you can even debate law enforcement, but why are we having third parties here that are trying to make a buck? Why should they have our stuff and be able to sell it to other people?
Well, had law enforcement agencies wanted to do this type of thing on their own without a private company involved with it, it'd be hard for them to do it. So they need these companies in order to be able to do this type of tracking, which benefits them.
Okay, why do we let them keep it then?
I think when you said that the genie's out of the bottle, really, then there's no way to get it back in. That's incorrect scientifically as well. If you put enough pressure on any system, you can put the gas back into a container. So that's what it really would take.
Okay. Now, to just properly freak out the folks at home beyond this already, talk about facial recognition, emotion recognition, where it stands right now, and how conceivably it's part of this big puzzle.
Yeah, so not only on top of Vigilant Solutions' own facial recognition programs, Conduit has just patented a technology that can recognize the emotions on people's faces. Now, that emotion can be used in a couple different ways, but one of the major security considerations for it is at border crossings, where they're able to judge, based on your, eyes, if you intend ill harm or not.
Okay, but is it conceivable, Frank, that I'm now driving on the thruway, and because that all this technology exists, not only are they going to know where I've come and gone for days on end here and figure out my exact patterns, but conceivably one day they can actually be able to recognize me not only facially, but how I'm feeling and if I'm angry or not, theoretically, and from that they divine I don't know what?
Yeah, that's theoretically possible. And the key thing is that we're looking at keeping this data for a long period of time too. So your emotional habits over a long time, we're just scratching the surface on what that capability can do.
I guess we all get down to this, all comes down to the same question. What expectation of privacy, especially in the 21st century, do we still practically have a reason or a right to enjoy? But we'll figure it out. Anyway, great reporting.
And I encourage you to read Frank's whole story on loha.com right now, or you can check it out in Sunday's Journal News print edition. And coming up next, a ceasefire between breakaway Democrats and the establishment in the New York State Senate. But the question is, will it last? That's what I asked Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the Democratic leader. Our conversation straight ahead.